Hello and welcome to our Saturday stream. I'm Josh, and this is our map and image creation. We're going to be going through some more of the testing of our tools here that we have going on. If anyone is unfamiliar with this, we have released into the test channel the new painting tools and updated image system. So if you guys have not tried it out yet, I suggest that you switch over to the test channel and check it out. Certainly would like to get any reports of any bugs you guys find. Helps us tremendously to create the best product we can. In addition to that, I believe that this month we're going to be releasing our third industrial modern art package, as well as medieval machines. So that should be pretty exciting. So I hope everyone's having a great week, and we've had a couple of updates throughout the week on the painting tools, which is rather exciting. Lots of stuff going on there. Without too much further ado, let's jump right into this stuff. Anything that you guys feel like creating today? I think that last time we started to work on like a post-apocalyptic kind of environment. We had done a couple of those in the past as well. Let's see what we have here. And we can kind of jump in and we can either create more of that stuff. I'm happy to create anything today that you guys might be interested in doing. And this is what we started to create last time. But let's, I think that there's a couple of other ones as well. I should probably organize these a little bit better and put them in groups quite a bit. And then here we have all of the test images for the modern stuff here. So here's when we released the coastal art packages a while ago. And yeah, so let's just jump right in and start to create some stuff. Oh, hey, Spencer. Drake Star Dragon. Welcome, guys. I'm going to start off by creating a new image record here. And we'll just drag this out. I'm going to initially create this. Yeah, courtyard that's ruined. Oh yeah, you could actually do that pretty easily, I think. Especially with the new painting system. But we could also do it in a couple of different ways. If you wanted to, we can definitely use some of those elements in today. Show you guys how you can kind of make things seem run down, and you can put that all on in a particular layer or in a folder, and then you can hide it and have a nice fresh environment there. Let's change this to 100 by 100. I tend to like using this. It makes math so much easier. Most of the images are set up going to be work 100 by 100 film here. And I'm just going to lower down the opacity of the grid. That way we can still see it, but it doesn't really interfere with any of the imagery. We have a pretty good representation of what we're trying to create here. And yeah, so we'll create a nice little environment here. We'll call it, you guys want to do it in like a medieval style, or should something more modern? And I'm just going to pull up my assets here, get everything kind of set up. Move this right over. And make sure that I'm in my images. I'm going to go into, start off with, let's do some dirt background. I think we'll go into the 2000. And I'll grab some of the tiles here. Start to. Oh yeah, we could do like a Spelljammer ship. That would be pretty cool too. Yeah, those are all great ideas. Maybe if depending on how much time we have here, maybe we can jump into doing that. So I think that that's pretty fun. Maybe what we'll do is we'll combine these two elements together, and I can show you guys how you can use a multiple different. Um, you can create your maps in a way to serve multiple purposes, right? So, for example, we can do um, uh, maybe we'll do like a landing pad courtyard area and the ship, and then we can hide that and show like a space or something underneath or behind it. Um, there's a multiple ways that we can kind of approach this and make it useful. That is great in a couple of different ways, right? Because we can minimize the amount of times that we have to not only switch between maps but share maps with our players. That can be kind of fun. So why don't we go into that today? And I'm going to turn off my stroke at first. Go into fill, and I'm actually just going to grab, let's grab this light dirt here, tile. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down control, and this is going to snap it to the grid for me. You can see that this is a seamless texture. Drag this out. This nice little face. And that's going to fit right into all of the squares that we've kind of created here. We have a pretty nice rectangular section here. We can now come back in, and if I decide that I want to make this longer or whatever, I can just grab this, and now it's a really great addition to all of the different. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is there's a few different ways that we can kind of do. We can either begin to stamp out our stamp tool, and we can stamp out grass much like we did in previous iterations, but we don't need to any longer. We can actually grab this. We can set the fade here if we wanted to, and we can use let's use our line tool. We can do this all in the same layer, but I'm actually going to create a new layer for this, and we'll call this one ground. And this one I'm just going to call it, maybe what we'll do is call it ground plants. And because what we'll actually do, maybe add in some additional capital there. What we can actually do is do all of our grass and all of our low-lying plants all on the level. And you guys certainly don't need to do this, but this oftentimes really helps separating these layers and making adjustments. But we can always come back in, and especially with these new tools, and we can come in and change all of these things after the fact. So a new wonderful kind of system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to just draw out some shapes here, and I'm going to start with my overlap on normal, and we can kind of just pull out any sort of dirt patch that we or grass kind of patch. And there's a few different ways we could do. We could actually do this with an effects layer, color of things. I think that this is going to work out really well. And what I can do is I can always switch to add, and I can even subtract it from this, but I could add in another patch to it, kind of build out these areas. New one, this here. I think what we'll do is we'll kind of separate these a little bit. I'm going to go over in here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to, then I can grab this one, and now we'll create a nice little space down here, and this is going to be like our courtyard and whatnot. We're going to do some material up and around, but this will just be our base from start with. We'll switch over to the edit fill, and you can see that these have all been simplified, and so I'm going to hold down F. I'm just going to fade out these edges a little. So now we have these nice kind of smoother transitions, and I can come back in here and I can tweak this a little bit and make this maybe do something like this. Went. Now we can go back, and I think I'm going to switch over to my stamp tool at this point. And I'm actually going to come all the way out in Alt category list here, and I'm just going to type in plant. And we're going to get a few different ones that kind of pop up here. Kind of designed to low-lying plants. And I'm going to switch over into stamp tool. You can see I can just kind of stamp these in. Control Z, a bit bigger. This doesn't seem updated, but that's okay. It's going to work fine for us. And I'm actually going to hold down A, and I'm going to use my mouse wheel to lower down the opacity of it. And I'm just going to start stamping in. And make it start to create some patches. Yeah, I'm doing this all on the same layer. And we're just going to kind of go around. And I'm just going to rotate it every once in a while. We might even change the size. And we're going to overlap these. And this is going to get that feeling that plants are in layers. Right? It's going to help create a nice feel higher. And with the new painting tool, go into our edit at any time. Place something that we might change or location. And even go in and delete elements. Well, if you hide that onto without having to use. So for example, if I were to decide that I wanted to duplicate this layer, and this is kind of where the system becomes extremely flexible. Let's say that I wanted to not have to stamp out quite a lot of image process. I can create this layer, and this is going to create a brand new copy of everything that's in. I can switch over to my edit mode, and maybe I don't want to have grass patches layer here. And I can just hit delete. Board, and we can totally rid of all. Then I might switch over to actual layers tab here. And we might rotate this around a little bit and then wash this. It's not going to change the size of the image whatsoever. It's going to change how closely they're packed. And I can go back into my tab here. See that now I have access to all of these, and I can just move these. And we can very quickly create some really cool. Grab these. I'm going to move them. Hit these as well, and we might even out here. That. And maybe these. Oh, is my audio stuttering for everybody? Well, let me know, and I'll see if I can do something to fix that if it is. I don't believe so, Svenster, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the impact of this system as far as it does. I haven't seen any sort of impact, but I have a pretty beefy. So Now what we can do is we can kind of come back in here and move anything around, paint things into this system, and we can kind of go back and forth between. So I'm going to switch back over to my stamp tool, and maybe we'll grab some of these other plants, but maybe something along to. We have some of these little guys. Let's grab something like that. Yeah, that might be. And these will be a little bit higher contrast, and we can kind of just place these. And maybe we'll make a little bit some smaller ones and out. Try to make a pretty natural kind of feeling environment. I always like it when we have like layers of the. And maybe we can kind of round here. Excellent. And we can even grab some of these other plants. Again, I'm going to lower down the opacity of this. We might even go down into this layer here. We can kind of get them mixed in with. And see, we can place these right underneath some of the other ones and kind of break up a lot of this. And we can kind of out and do some of this stuff. Make it smaller. We can do smaller kind of patches. Fades out to this. Maybe we'll do well. And again, we can always come back into our edit tab, and if we want to move something around, we can just grab it, move it at some certain points as we begin to interact with the system. The update a little bit broken at times, so be aware of that. That doesn't mean that it's not actually working properly. It's when we come back in and if we stamp something new, you can see that it will update. Kind of. So just be kind of aware of that. That currently there are still a couple of bugs that will need to be taken care of, but for the most part, it's gotten to be in a very solid state. So I would really recommend that you guys check. Kind of stamp a couple rounds. And I'm going to lower down the opacity a little bit more. Kind of fade off patches. What's not so abrupt. Excellent. Now we're going to have to start to build out some of these other things. And what we can kind of do, and this is the kind of cool thing of the system here, is that now, before we had to be a little bit more conscientious of where we were placing things and I'll have a little bit more forethought. This is no longer the case. We can constantly kind of come back in and readjust these as we. So we can be much freer and less rigid about what we want to do for our planning phase and in our creation process. So why don't we build, we can do like some structure, but we're going to build like a little like landing pad here in this courtyard because we're going to do it around, we'll do some walls and whatnot and some building components and do all of that stuff. What we can do is depending on how we want to whatever material we want to make this out of, right? And that's kind of the cool thing with this new system is we can use all of those pre-created images and stamp them around just like we would previously. But now we have the option of being able to create all of our own shapes, all of our own designs with whatever type of textural material that we want to use. So for example, if I want to do this in stone or in wood, all I have to do is find the appropriate image that will work for that. One of the things that we have been doing, and not all of these will necessarily be listed in this way, but we're going to be using a lot of these new underscore of fill. And that will be all of these images that are specifically kind of designed for these. So here we have like a nice stone element here. And we have a couple of really basic kind of dirt and whatnot. But all of the images, especially the ones that are in the backgrounds and in the tile sections and so on, any image that would be just placed and can be used as a seamless image, I've gone through and done so. So there's just a ton of different kind of stuff that we. But let's just grab this for right now. And what I can actually do is I can turn this stroke back on. And I'm going to make it pretty small though. And I'm just doing that by holding down Control and using my mouse wheel. And we're going to create a new painting layer. And so what I can do, and this is one of the really cool things and the way that this kind of system works, is that I can start to design out the shape that I want to use for this particular element. And then I can even go back in after the fact and make adjustments. And so, oh yeah, I guess I might have forgotten to update titles. Hold on one second. I think I can switch over quickly to that. So how's everyone's weekend going? Hopefully that will update all of those. I don't know if it'll do it while we're or not. Hopefully. Yes, thank you so much for letting me know, Shield Walrus. Oh, great. So let's jump right in here, and so this is kind of what I'm kind of talking about here. So in this new area here, so I'm going to hold down Control, and this is going to snap to the grid. And you can see that as I pull out this this image here, what I've actually done is I've used this kind of texture in the background, and it's put a line right on it for me. That line's a little bit thick for me, so I'm actually going to hit Control Z, and I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to make my my line here a little bit smaller here. I want to have a little bit of a smaller kind of line that kind of goes, and maybe we'll bring it out something. And I'm not going to worry too much about. I'm going to be changing its dimension here, but I'm going to be using the grid system to help me design all of these little parts. And so this is going to help me do it, and then I can rotate it after the fact, put it into the. And so what I'm kind of saying here is about this is that I can come back into this area now, and I can change where these are. Now, right now, it's not going to update until I do something in here. So if I do this, you see it'll update. This is just a current bug that will get squashed. It does, in fact, update. It's just not showing us until. So let me put this back to where it was. And now I'm going to come in here. And one of the things that we can do now, and this is a wonderful kind of way that this works, is, for example, if I wanted to, we have this new sample settings from the painting object. And this will, not only will it update, so for example, if I were to come down here, I could click on this thing down here, right? And it should, let's see, is it on this layer? I think it's on this layer, yeah. what I should be able to do is to grab any of that information. So let's just switch this out here. I don't want to do that. Move this around here, and let's say I decided to do something up here. See that didn't quite update the way that I wanted to. There it is. So now what I could do is, with this new sample section, is I can grab this at any time in the future. Oh, is it stuttering and dropping out a little bit? Let me just check that really quickly here. Okay, let me just have a little check here. Alrighty, let's see if we can adjust this here a little bit. Alright, so how does that sound? Talk for a while. Hopefully that this will be a little bit better now. Hopefully. Let's see if that changes things a little bit for you. Let me down and get back to it. Okay, great. Well, hopefully that will eliminate any of those other problems. Yeah, let me know. All right, so now we can actually grab these samples again, as you can see here, and it will we can anything that we painted previously, it'll grab all of that information, and it can be the type of stroke that we use with it, as well as all of the different elements. And we don't have to constantly kind of struggle going back and forth between our kind of painted elements. But I'm just going to come back in here and grab this and that right out of there. And what we can actually do is we can add in these elements, something like this. And we have this over here. I painted on a different, there it is, on this layer. Let me just delete that right out of there as well. And you can see this isn't updating. It usually does, but sometimes it runs into this where it doesn't update immediately. It has been updated, it's just the visual representation needs to get changed. And so that's just a minor bug. So I'm just going to ignore it because I know it's deleted, and I'm going to come back into this this element here. And so I can begin to create these things in whatever shape that I wish. And I can even come into the subtract element here. And let's say, for example, I wanted to, whatever I want to do, kind of change the way that this interacts here. And if I wanted to, I'm also holding down Control so I can snap to that grid. And I can remove any element that I wish. So I can begin to build this in any sort of system that I want to. And the crazy cool stuff about this system is that even though I've deleted this, I've created these new points here, and I'm able to use these. If I move these out, for example, and again, I can hold down Control and they'll snap. And then when we come back in here, what I'll actually do is just paint a little thing out here, and you can see it'll update. So I can change these shapes. It becomes a much similar in the image creation process to how we would do many of the different occluder elements, right, when we're doing our line of sight. And so you can kind of start to think about these images in the same way, and you're able to change all of these different parameters even after the fact, which makes it very, very powerful. We can even come in and we can move these elements around. I'm actually going to, let's change the scale of this. And so I'm going to hold down Control, and you can see that we have a listing of all the different edit elements that we can kind of interact with. We can change its opacity, its color, the amount of fade that it has on its edge, and so on. And so what I can actually do is hold down Control, and this is, again, it's not going to update immediately because it's having a little funny thing. I can restart Fantasy Grounds, and it will go back to updating as it should. But we might do that on the break. And when we switch back over, and I can just kind of subtract, and you can see I've actually changed it. And so it's a little bit difficult. But while you guys are working, you can just restart Fantasy Grounds. It will have no problems there. Great, so we have this nice little shape that we're going to start to build off of, and we can interact with this. As I said again, we can change this, all of these dimensions and whatnot. And what I think I'm actually going to do is let's grab this, and I think I will put out something like this. And again, I'm going to do the same on here. Holding down Control so that these kind of snap. And this would normally be updating in real time. I think we'll move it over to there, and this like that. And then I'm just going to do a little erase, and you can see I've changed that shape once again. So very, very cool. Lots of cool stuff that we can kind of do. And now the other thing that we can do, and this is kind of the cool stuff that I've been working on, is lots of different types of edge materials that we can use to create lots of cool different effects, making that seem like a little bit of a beveled edge and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of stuff that will be coming in the. So now what I can actually do is I'm going to continue to work on it in this way on this one particular layer, and then what I'll do is I can rotate all of this, and it will rotate to anywhere that I wish. You can see that I can just kind of change that I create. But I'm going to hit Control Z because I want to keep it using the grid system as we're using it right now to kind of line some things up, because that'll be much more difficult at an angle. So that's one of the other things that you can now do with that grid system, and you can build certain elements and then just change it after the fact. So if you want to have like an angled house or whatnot, build it straight across, and then just turn it. That'll save you a lot of headaches. So this will be like our little bit of a landing pad here, and we're going to build our ship on top of it. So we're going to have to build like some steps up to it. What I'm actually going to do here, I think, is maybe we'll put some cracks on it and kind of dress this up a little bit. So I'm going to turn the fill off for now. We'll switch to stroke. And I think that we have some crack brushes like this. I'm just going to drag and drop that right in there. And what I'll do is I'm just a little bit bigger here. And I'm just going to start on one edge here, and I'm just going to start to drag it out a little bit. Right across. Oh, I'm on erase. So let's make sure that we're on normal. And here we go. And I'm not going to be very precise about this right now, because I can actually come back in and make any sort of adjustments that I want to. And this is the other great thing about the way that this system is set up. I can now change these And this will update in real time once the when the system is working correctly. And I can even move these around and kind of interact with the system that way. What I'm just going to do is back over. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'll do some cracks coming off of the side here. And see here where this is a little bit out of there, so I can just grab this and I'm just going to right over into there like that. Into maybe another one coming off from here. And maybe we'll build another little crack out like this. And you can see that this whole system will interact exceptionally well with all of these things. And I'll switch over to the stamp tool, which is updated now, which is great. And I'll make this a little bit smaller, and I'm just going to use this to add a little bit more complexity to some of this stuff here. Like this. Great. We have this nice little interactive kind of space up here. The next thing that I can do is I can go into any one of the art packages that has any sort of like these stone textures and whatnot, or I can use other elements. And if I want to create some variations across the way here, it's really simple to do that. We can do that exactly the same way. Maybe we'll grab the circle. I'll turn the stroke off and we'll switch over to the fill. Maybe we'll go into, I think that there's some nice stone texture. We can just type in stone, for example. And I think that there may be a lot of them, so it might take a moment to go through all of the searching because there's lots of different elements here. But anything that we can use anything like this, like these stone floors and whatnot, if we want to. And we can kind of just see how this is going to work over here. And what I'll do is I'll just grab it and bring it over, and then I'll make like a little circle, something like this. And that's kind of a little bit obstructive, destructive. Not quite exactly what I want it to be, right? The scale is kind of too big and all of those things. So I can come into this area over here and maybe make that a little bit smaller. And we might even want to do our fill on it a little bit. Normally this would all update in real time, but I can quickly come over and we'll switch over to the eraser here. That should update. You can see that's a much better element over there. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to also hold down F and use my mouse wheel to kind of fade out that edge. See, we can make these nice little patches that will change the whole way that this kind of feels. And now to get this again, right? All I have to do is grab my little tool here, and this is going to set up. You can see here, this is the fade that I just created. It's also going to adjust the size of it and all of it. So I can quickly kind of create some more elements that are similar to drag something like I did, but it's not quite large enough. So what I'll do is I'm going to grab this. I'm going to move it this and hold down Shift, select a bunch of these. Again, this is not going to update because going on, but I'll restart it, and then we should be able to get work here. Drag this out. This should be showing something. And again, this is in beta, so we are going to run into some bugs and whatnot. Bigger. And erase that. I'm going to hit E. So it seems that it's not grabbed that correctly. I'm just going to delete that whole section. Go back and let's try this again. I'm going to make the fade a little bit less. Let's do something like 1. And we'll just drag this out. Don't want to subtract. There it is. And see, I don't want to cover up. It looks like that I got rid of some of my cracks. We'll put those back in. So what I can do is I can actually come over here. I can double click on this, and this will grab all of these elements. And maybe we'll make this a little smaller. I'm going to move it over to the side here so I can just select some of the. What I'll do is these and maybe in a little bit. And kind of put this. And now when I come in here, I'll just grab the update that. Now what I'll do is I'll turn my fill off and switch, and we'll go to using our track that we have lined up here. And I don't want to do erase. I'm on normal here. Oh, I want it to be on line. And so that's interesting. I have a fill? No, I do not have. There we go. Oh, now it's back. Interesting. There's a little bug there. It's probably just like an update bug. Images. So now we have a couple of little variations in our texture there. And we can certainly do this many different ways as well. We can just stamp out some other sections as well. We have like all kinds of gravestones. And so one of the things that we can kind of do now, which is really cool, is we can use our line tool. And we can also add fade to that in addition to that. So if you'll notice that we have a shadow and a fade, and these are independent. Let's put that back to 0 now. These are independent of each other. And so, for example, if I wanted to, here we have like a nice little like stone kind of, what this says, a path. We can grab something like this, and we want to make sure that we are in our stroke area here. So if you have something like this, what you can actually do, we can make it pretty large here, just for demonstration. I'm going to make a new layer. That little mark down there. So we kind of come in here, double click that and delete it. Demonstrate what I'm kind of talking about here. Let's add in a fade here, and I'm going to do a fade of 5. And I would be able to do this. How this is working here. What it actually will do is fade in from the edges here. Now let's do a little bit more here. Let's do like 1. So you can see, you can actually make like little pathways and whatnot and have this nice fade from the edges here. 5. Something along those lines. There does seem to be a little bit of this edge. We'll just do that layer. So these are all independent of each other, which is the kind of the base of what I was. So you can create some really cool pathways. You might want to do it with like streams or any number of different kind of things there. Lots and lots of opportunity to do that in many different ways. But I'm going to use these stone steps, and we're going to switch over to our stamp tool, and I'll drop that right in there. Currently, this kind of gets a little bit wonky with the dimensions when you first place them in there, but if you just hit the reset button, it'll kind of bring it back to it. And what I'm actually going to do is width at 2. Aspect lock ratio might be a little bit wink right now. But we'll just kind of grab something like this and drop it right on. And again, I'm holding down Control so that it's going to snap right to that. All right, we can start to build out all kinds of these other different kind of elements here. And I kind of peruse through stuff. We have all kinds of cool walls. And so something like this too, very easy to kind of use in these kind of scenarios. And so what you can actually do is similarly, let's turn that stroke off, and we kind of, I'm actually going to switch to the not the here for a moment just to get rid of that image, and then turn the stroke off, and then we can go back to our image fill kind of thing. Using something like this addition, you can start to layer these on top of each other, rather interesting kind of ways. And what we can do is with this, make sure that we have no stroke on. And I'll actually create a new painting layer just above it. And we can kind of just drag out lines. And to, oh, that's a lot shorter than. Let's kind of drag this out. I'm going to hold down Control. This appropriate image here. And we'll go in here. And what I can do is A, fade that out, and F, then that. You can see what we can actually do is you can create lots of cool kind of variants and layering these textures on top of each other, making lots of cool kind of multi-dimensional like images. And I can probably fade out those edges quite a bit more here. And that's something like this, where you get this just very subtle kind of elements here. We'll probably want to change that back here. Actually, you know what? Let's just restart Fantasy Grounds really quickly so we can kind of update these all in time. So have you guys been trying out these new tools? Has anyone had a chance to make anything interesting with them, or? And then we can go into our images, and I believe we call it courtyard, right? And now when we go into this painting layer, we can switch our tool, and you can see that this will all update in real time. Kind of this a little, and maybe we'll parent. Probably we should do all of our texture stuff first, and then do like the lines around it. Now what I can do is I can switch back over now, and I can kind of pull this out. Maybe something like this. And so we can do exactly the same kind of thing that we would do with our other elements. So I can switch back over to my rectangle. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to grab this. This should load it up. So be able to right on here grab that. So if I were to switch to add, I should be able to add additional elements to that. Stick with all of those same parameters that I had before. And what it will do is it'll just kind of create that we can interact to it. So you can have lots and lots of fun. You can really add a lot of dimension to stuff now. So let's switch over to beginning to build out some of the other areas. Close down the image window here. And we can start to build some walls and do stuff with it. We have this nice little landing platform, and maybe we will even like make marks on it or something, similar to what you might see like on a helicopter pad. But maybe we'll do it like with magic symbols. We could use like, yeah, let's do that. That first. So what I'll actually do is I'll jump over into, I think we'll actually use the spell templates. And inside of here, in our decorations, we have a whole bunch of them. These generic ones that we kind of use, like this. We can also do maybe something like these. Yeah, let's use that one. I think that'll work well. I'm going to switch stamp. There. See that big. This, and I'm going to lower down the opacity here. I'm going to hold down, snap to the right in the middle there. Perfect. Now let's go into, as I was saying before, we can actually kind of build. I kind of want to plot out where the wall is going to be. We'll do like a wall, maybe we'll do crumbling on one side. So let's type in wall, and there's going to be a bunch of these. Let's get ones. Let's see. Lines here. You know what I should type in is brush. So we could do something along these lines if we wanted to. I think we'll do something a little bit rougher, like these ones that are from Goblin. We could also do something like this from the ruins. And I can show you guys how you can use many of the systems kind of working together. So what I'll do is I'll grab this, this one, and this is all in the Goblin art package. And we'll switch back over to our line tool. Or actually, you know what? Let's just do an ellipse. And turn off the fill. Put in, use, I think we'll use this one kind of view. Dark. Maybe what we'll do, like a lighter one. Maybe something like this might be better for. So what I'll actually do is I'm just going to drag out a circle like this. And what I can do is I can come back in here and I can grab this. And if I want to, I can start to change its shape and its dimensions, all of those things. What I'll do is I'll just grab some sections, start to build out. Not quite so. And we're going to open up, we're going to erase a part of this. Kind of make, kind of you can see how powerful that these are coming. So much fun to kind of and we'll open up some. Start to do some like plants and stuff around the edge. And I'm actually going to erase a pretty good section of this, and then I'm going to use the same thing, but we're gonna break it up a little bit and change some of the parameters. Let's switch back over. We're going to go into our eraser tool here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to start to erase out some of this. Should no have a little bit of a problem. Let's see. Let's select these points, and let's say. So we're going to switch back over, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try this out. I'm going to grab this, I'm going to put it in my fill area here. We're going to turn off the stroke. And what this will allow me to do, I can kind of drag out a section here. And I'll kind of show you. And so now I can move this around, kind of isolate that. Back over to here, and I can begin to play. And what this will allow me to do, fade on there. Let's get that. And that way I can be quite precise with. Here I have a little section, and this is done with the fill tool instead of the line tool. But what this will allow me to do now is I can switch over to the line and go to subtract. And what I'm actually going to do is make this, turn the fill off here. Over here, I can see it a little bit better here. And I can actually subtract out any of these shapes. This is going to convert that. We're going to have to go back to where it was. Here I can actually start to erase out any shape that I wish, right? Here, let's put this back to what it was. This. Making it very, very cool. And if I were to do this, what I would probably want to do, layer, back down here, from that layer, and this layer, double click that. This is the thing that's on there. And we'll that. So we can move it up and down to wherever we kind of feel like it should be. And then we can come into here, and because it's just this piece, gotta get rid of back into it. Yeah, that. And now I can hold down Control here. You can see that you can start to create these really cool, and then we can add up a little. You could really take total control over all of these different elements and make these like ragged kind of edges and do all of that kind of stuff that you never could before. Opens up avenue process. That's just like a quick, dirty demonstration on how you can take any image and kind of bend it to your will by using the tools. What I'm actually going to do is let's go. I think that this is in the but let's just type in have a bunch. What I think what I'll do is come back into here and again extract out any. Now that we have this set up in this way, we can just kind of extract out different sections, make our own little blocks. And again, this is excellent. All right, let's grab some plants. I think we're going to use some ones from the abandoned places here. Our decorations, nature. And I think what we'll do is we can grab some of the stones, for example, and start to place them around. Again, we're going to go into our stamp tool. This, set that. I'm going to go down into lower that, and this is going to help add to that feeling that there's like these sort of crumbled. And we can kind of just place, I like to do them radically. And we can grab some other ones. And then we'll build some of like plants and whatnot kind of grow. And take some of the rock right there. And placing all of these things around is kind of what I feel as though that makes these like believe, right? Like they're actual places that might really exist. All of these natural kind of elements. Piles of leaves. They might get caught up. All once we put in all of our shadows, they're here. These. And we can start to grab some of the other plants. Some that are out right here. Maybe we'll do like a little building here as well. And increase that. And we'll go to maybe some lines. These are great. I love doing stuff like this, like edges. Oh, that kind of elements that are growing along the sides of the. this. Is the audio stuttering again? I wonder what could be affecting it. I wonder if internet or something. Is it still stuttering? Let's see. Maybe that'll be better. How's that sound? And let's grab some of these other plants. Okay, good. Well, thanks for letting me know. I'll try to, if I can uncover what's going on. Start to place some of this stuff around. Up these layers. Grab larger lines. Go here. Smaller. Kind of encroach other plants. So one of the things that I've also been kind of working on, I can think that I might be is creating a brush setup so that you can create any type of bushes that you might like. I think that it might be another channel though. I will after we take a break here in a moment. And let's add in some of the other types of bushes and whatnot. Quite dark. They give quite a lot of contrast. They're great for making. And we can even do some of these ferns. And we can go back and forth between going under and over other plants. I always have fun creating these natural environments. And maybe we'll grab some stone. And I'm going to lower down the opacity a little down onto this layer. Kind of stamp some of the sounds like debris. And we'll help break up some of this stuff. We can even go in and grab some of the other like textures for the ground. 2019 art pack. Our decorations have a whole bunch of these kind of textures. Ones are the, kind of like forest floors. One is a great one, kind of like buddy. Lower alpha channel a little more. And this is really helps kind of break up. Giving us textures on the ground. Grab some of the out from my And so the cool thing that we can do now is we can jump back over here and you can see these are all the stamped images that we've done. And we can just grab them out now. Kind of experiment a little bit more. And that's what I was saying before about not needing to plan out things quite as heavily might have wanted. Now we can kind of just come back in after the fact. Here we have all kinds of different textural elements. So like here, for example, if I start to place this in and I feel as though these little elements are going to start to get lost, jump over into here. And I can grab these stones and I can move them. Maybe I'll move them out. So you can kind of go back and forth between all of the different elements to lower the opacity of the stamp some of out here. A little bit more of a gradual harsher kind of contrasty lines. Fade some out here. Cool. So let's do shadows and give this a little bit more dimension, and then when we come back, and then we'll take a short break, and then we'll come back and begin to build a ship. And so what I'm going to do is I'll put all of these layers into one folder, and then we can just throw like a space background or whatever, and so you can have multiple different ways of using the same image, the same map, different ways here. Let's create an effects layer. I'm going to make it a just colors, and I'm just going to drop down the brightness here a bit. Mask. I'm just going to start to draw out some of the shapes here. That. And I think what we'll do is, well, let's set 50. Let's get a little bit of a blueness to it. I'll do is drag out some edge. Where now like this. And so this is what's going to help determine that sense of height of the wall. The higher you make, the greater the shadow that you kind of create. Give that feeling that of higher wall because it's block more. And your reference, your frame of reference is going to be this, the platform, right? So depending on how high you want this platform to be, you might want to all of this shadow, right? And then as it curves, so we're assuming that the light's coming from the top left-hand corner down this way, and so as it kind of comes around here, less and less shadow being. And we might even want to use a nice little like a shadow brush painting layer, but I think what we'll do with it, want to stamp it in there, probably do it underneath the wall itself. Here, I should probably wall platform. Pad, so that we have a good kind of understanding about what we're all the different. I'm going to drop this down in underneath the wall here, and we'll grab this guy. What I'm actually going to do, RG black, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of blue to it. What we'll do is, I'm just going to kind of stamp it in here. Right now, the aspect lock ratio functioning. I have to stamp it in. Usually I'd make this kind of like oblong. But what I'll do is I'm just going to create a little bit of ambient occlusion where these edges meet and light gets kind of trapped down in there. So get a little bit extra shadow areas, and I'm going to do it there. And I want it to kind of poke out a little bit on the other side as well. And what it's going to be super dark right now. But what we're going to do is go into the Layers tab and change that. So all we have to do is here and go into our tint, that down so that nice little subtle shadow there. This. And the way that you can kind of test this, turn it on and off, you can see how much that really affects it. So switching back over, stamp here. And again, what we can do is we can always come into the tab, and here are all our little stamped marks. There's one that seems out of the way, or section that doesn't have like there's enough. Move these side maybe. Great, so we're off to a good start here. And we might even want to do highlights as well. But why don't you guys hang out for a moment? I'm just going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're actually going to jump in and start to build the actual ship. And so I can show you guys, we're going to use many of the same techniques, but we can use like a wood texture, and then we can kind of build out whatever shape ship we want and add in all kinds of different elements to it. So it should be fun. So just hang out for a short while. I'm just going to grab some beverage, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, we're back. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Continue on this journey here. So what I'm going to do is I will create a new folder. Add. And I'm going to grab all of these elements and we're going to drop them right in there. So it should also be noted that if you select this folder, you'll be able to have access to everything that is inside of it in your little edit tab. So you can quickly interact with all of these things exactly the same kind of way. Or you can do just as in this tab, if we go into Layers tab, it sees this as all one unit. So basically, has now become one particular layer here. Let's go into our drawing tools here. Painting tool. Again, I'm going to be using the stroke, kind of help create that feeling like we did with this, that it's one kind of unit here. I'm going to make it a little bit small, about the same size as it is. So we're going to be making this out of wood, I think, right? What do you guys think? So any sort of like wood floor, or we could actually use any number of different types of elements here. But we could use have here. Let's just type in floor. And that's a little bit, we want to do kind of like boards, like deck boards. Might use this, or this will work perfectly, I think. We can even use this from the scenes that's coming out. This one is modern houses. Yeah, I think that that'll work good for us. So let's switch over to our fill option, like this. And I'm going to start off with just a rectangle. And I think what I'll actually do is, so I don't get too caught up in the shapes of other things, I think I'm going to turn that right off. We'll create a new painting layer of it. This way we can kind of look at the silhouette that we're creating. We want a cool shape, especially because we're going to be building this out, something similar to, or very much the that the Spelljammer ships have a kind of like a interesting. We're going to make this cool as possible. We'll see how we can kind of interact with this thing that we. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a normal overlap. I'm going to just kind of build out a section here, maybe like this. See, I'm going to turn this back on. That line might be a little bit too big, I think, a bit too heavy. So I'm just going to do this and that here. I got a section. Yeah, I think that that's going to work for us. And what I'll do is I'm just going to kind of line it up. So I don't want to go any longer than this, but I'm going to be making it wider. Kind of build that out as we go here. I can also come in here. I think we can size of the board, shrink it down a little bit. we're going to be interacting with adding and subtracting. Make sure that everything is good. I'm just going to select it, start to kind of build out all shapes. We want to do like a kind of narrower up here. I think what we'll do is we can add in like a round section. Turn this off so I can just add it. Grab up here. I'm going to hold down Shift and Alt. Right from snap it to like nice rounded kind of element here. Holding down Control again. I think we'll grab it from here and might want to. Then I can just fit. This. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch square here, and we're adding across, making this all one shape here. We're going to make this a little bit more lines here. I'm going to do. I'm going to cut off these corners. Correct, and again I'm going to hold down Control. Cut off this corner and this. I'm actually just going to do a couple of these. And I'm only doing this to get the points. Kind of see my the method to madness here in a second. Add in another shape. Great. And now I can come in here and I can actually start to manipulate this. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to begin to make a point here. And I'm going to duplicate everything that make some kind of interest. So if there's any of these that I don't require, right? Any of these points that I don't want, I can just go into the, that will maintain shape and complexity without destructiveness. Yeah, we're starting to create some interesting shapes here for our ship. It's going to be our base like deck and build everything. Might even want to start to work on the tail now. Do is we'll widen this out. Or we'll here up with our add, and I'm going to hold down Control. Snap to right here so I can drag out. We want to down control so it snaps. Same over here. Yeah, pretty cool. And so we'll call this one deck. And now we can start to add in all of the other things. And what we'll do, what we can actually do here, add in some like railing elements along some of these edges, and start to build this up. What we could do instead of having this line is we could have created a rail like the brush, but we because we're snapping to the grid system, a lot of the different elements here. Very easy for us, even if we're painting this out, doing something trying to follow these lines, we can come back in and do the adjustments after the fact, making it very, very easy. And so now let's go into the coastal map pack. I believe it's the second one, which has all of the like shipbuilding kind of elements to it. And you can see how this is all going to interact. And what I can actually do is I can subtract elements right from the middle. And so if we wanted to create some of these like metal grates that kind of or cargo hold type elements, we can now really easily do that and paint things underneath it. Lots of really cool stuff that we can kind of do. We can also build up. I think we'll create like a higher deck kind of element over here. Figurehead, kind of like decorative elements. We can turn this back on. You can see that our ship is going to fit pretty well in there. I'm just going to go into the layers tab here, and maybe what we'll do is we'll have it so that it turn the whole ship kind of like this way when we're done. Oh yeah, we could do lights from below the ship as well. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. And you can see what we'll be able to do here is we'll also drop this down. Well, we can actually go into the spaceships pack now and grab a space. Go into here. Drop this. Kind of transition. Whenever we want to hide this, kind of go right into. Why don't we build it? Great. So we can go back into our coastal map pack here. Go into our decorations, and have our deck here. So I'm going to create two painting layers. I'm going to do one below and one above. And we'll put this all into a folder later and call this like our ship or whatever we want to name our ship or anything along those lines. And it'll give us that flexibility that we're going to want without having to kind of jump. So let's go into our painting tab here and we'll grab our stamp. And we'll do that. And as you can see here, what we're actually doing is we're snapping to the grid. So we're using this grid system. It also should be noted that if we're going to, and this is kind of, maybe we should rotate the ship first before we start stamping because the stamped elements aren't going to rotate as well. So yeah, why don't we do that? Actually, that for right now. This area here. Then for a little bit. Then we can do like a ladder up to it here, like lands like this. And this is the other kind of cool stuff that we can do as well. We can come back into our launch pad if we want to change the shape of this. Bring these elements down. We can move all of this stuff. So what I was kind of saying before about how we don't really need to plan things out as well as we once had to. We can make lots of adjustments. And it also opens up that whole multi-use of all of the different maps and images that you've created in the past and able to go back in and rework them. Because all of those maps now are backward compatible, right? So if I just switch down here and we come in area, right? I can grab like this. And we'll have to readjust our mask there a little bit. But and we can tab and down. Fine here. That one. This. Grass under. Nice. Now all we have to do is go into just colors here, the effects panel. Now let's white area, and we'll then we can put great. You know, easily kind of adjust all of these, and even all of the different elements that we've kind of placed here. Like this, if we want to change this, all we have to do back into go into our painting, enter it, sound control. Tons and tons of cool ways that we can interact with this now and make all of these adjustments constantly. Cool. We have this kind of going here. I'm going to hide this again. This, that. Start to build the ship stuff up. Our stamp in here, have this and rotate it back there. We'll start to build out tons of these kind of like cool elements. Yep, lots of ladders, and we can tie the ladder in actually. I even want to do kind of do it element, or we could even do it on top of the ship, right? You could have it own thing that you that here. Great. So let's start to build out some of these other things. We have lots of different shapes and whatnot. And if we come back into our brushes, we have lots of like these plank brushes. We can really build anything that we want, like railings like this. Start to paint some of it in. I think what I'll do is actually line some underneath. Well, back over here, fill off. Have our stroke. This. You might want this poking out. May want to do. Maybe we only want to do that in. That we can. This. Kind of have that feel that there's something out from under the body of the. And we don't have to worry too much about not getting these right. So what I'm actually going to down control snap to elements. Snap it to. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now let's let's actually use some of these railings similar on the upper part of the build whatnot. We'll make them right along here. Layer this. I'm gonna go in the other. And again, we can just come into here and readjust this up with. And let's we can. The other thing that you can do is you can the parameters how the corners are. Whatever works best for you. And switching back and forth. Now I think I'm different areas, but now what I do is much similar, as I said, creating shooters. You don't have to necessarily care as much about where you're placing it, as long as you're creating enough points that you can manipulate, that you can adjust it to where you want. The and I could change the angle if I wanted to make. Now I have it on level day. Great. And now let's go into some of these other decorations, how to place them around, right? Start to build wherever the helm is going to be. I don't know as I've ever created. Well, I don't even know if I've ever looked at a deck plan of these types of ships before. Spelljammer ones. Do they have like cannons and things? You guys have information on stuff? I'm gonna grab like pre groupings, kind of place it there maybe, or we could use it as a fill and we could shape of it. I think what we'll do is we'll use brush, and we'll build a nice little lighter. Then start off with a normal, and then we could add out any other dish. What I'm actually going to do, and I'll hold down Control, App. See, that's going to make a clean edge for. And I'm going to be changing the shape of this. I want to kind of have like this deck that kind of goes out and around. So this balcony on the back. This will be like a door here, steps going up, and maybe a platform up. Kind of build out. But here, what we can actually do, and can interact with this after the fact. I'm not going to add any. I think that's going to be good. maybe another shape up here. I really like that shape there. I'm going to keep this here. What I'll do is I can this shape, move this up a little, kind of shape. You like the something, but this way you'll have this nice like walk space out and around, and we back. I suppose that we can make this. So in our doorway, but where we don't have a tremendous amount of time left, I think I'll just leave the interior as it is for right now, and we'll just kind of like build kind of like what's on top here. What I'm thinking is we'll like either a ladder or stairs coming up that steps in. I want to make sure stamp tool now. That will be the design choice. Maybe what we'll do here. And that way we can build a platform. What we should probably do, have this for all the other decorations, and we'll create another probably do floor though. But we can move it. Maybe that'll work. And then we can floor, for example. Stroke off. Fill here. Off as drag out. Add in element. Act. Here we'll then what we can actually I think I'll also and we're using a few different ones, but this one that we're using at the moment is Coastal Map Pack 2. Yep, we've used all of those play games, Patty. Correct. So now we can, we have this little area up here, right? All this. What is this? The poop deck? I think it actually is. And add in all kinds of cool decorative kind of elements. What we'll do is like another little like railing. Turn our fill off. Want to railing all up. Yeah, let's do it. Nice. May even want here. Don't think that we should kind of come where we want out a little. Perfect. Oh, thanks so much, Tentacles and Terror. And see what we can do now is because we have this, I want to can actually grab this and move it around too. Have a lot of because it's underneath. Make it. I think what we'll do this. We have so much more freedom and control over all of this stuff. We love that. Might even want to start to add in stuff. This stuff. I will make. Right, let's grab some of this other stuff. Start to place it around, and we can start to build things. Kind of thinking is we kind of add some of these decorative kind of elements around. Where we're going to jump back and forth, but going to be underneath, so they're just going to be poking out. Here. that one back over. Things a bit. I don't want to fast. Three. This one will come in a little. Ropes come down and one. And if we go onto here into this painting area, what we can start to do is create some the grates, create some faces that were fails. Well, let's grab think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place these down first, then I'm going to erase. We could use a different grate too. Might not want to. You can actually use. Great, we got some that are better for like fill elements, but instead of stamping. Let's do that. Let's back over here. Let's turn the stroke off. Add this fill element. Back to the stroke and just this off so that I have a nice little dot that I. What I'll do is I'm just going to hold down Control and I'm going to be layer here. Drag this out. Then I'm going to come here. And as we back in deck area here. I got rid of our masts. Like there's. So hopefully they're still there. I'm going to redo them. I think that they might. A little bit. Yeah, we can use that as great. And then we can go down to this lower painting area. Create another wooden element underneath, but we'll make it darker. What we can actually do is we can go into our deck, our little eyedropper. We Grab this one if we want different. Here, grab our eyedropper. That's going to up that. Now coming back down into this area here, angle, and I can go into the fill edit here, and on R, G, and B, and I can make the darker down. Going back to the deck area here, if I want to, I can actually we'll do it on cloth, stroke, back into coastal pack here, grab a brush, I'm just gonna, I got a rectangle, this is the frame right here. And I'm not going to worry about this much because I can just all of these as well. Grab these both. Cool. And now we can start to build out some of these other cool kind of elements. Let's grab some of these other decorations. Them on the layer here. So maybe we can grab some like cannons. We'll wanted to on the deck here, poking out on the sides. Maybe this would be our ladder is still there, so we might even want to do a section of that. We can also move. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start to add in a little bit of color variation, textural changes to the ship itself. Deck. Start to we can actually add in some stuff to gotta have crates, right? Barrels. That's this. And yeah, there's all kinds of different have like a Oh, we were gonna do. I was just gonna. So what we can actually do, a couple of different ways. We can do it with an effects layer. Grab this down of our deck. We can actually use the deck itself. Why don't we do that? So I'm going to delete that one. Our effects layer, and we can actually use this and create a mask. I'm going to create an effects layer that is masked deck itself. Here, what we can go to. Well, we can do a couple of different things. We can do like a grayscale, right? And then can begin to take out some. What I'll actually do, hide area, and I'm going to hold down Alt so I can just kind of like feel like worn patches. And we can now blur this out a bit so that we have these like oh thanks Drake Star Dragon. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that all of this together is really we can make this feel like actual. Add in some shadows here. Hopefully our back maybe down in here. Guess we'll have our masts back in. Have our landing pad, and then you can just kind of traveling through space and what. So what we can kind of create, put in our mask stuff back in. Much about having that film happen again. Probably go in here. All that. Go to our stamp. Here. Base here. Perfect. Grab. Down control so snap into the grid system. That'll give us some good stuff that we can. And then on this layer up here, what we'll do is we'll do these sails, right? So we can kind of start to build out sail shape. Want to. One of the things that I'll be able to do is create like a sail texture. Kind of like draw in whatever shape you want and so on and so forth. This will help us determine how we're going to set up our actual shadows. Cast off. I'm going to grab some of these eyes. Do it in kind of Color one. Have a whole. Guy. And I'm gonna find ropes. I'm gonna put there, and I think that one's a little bit off to one side, so I here. Awesome. Grab the definitely have to do like an ink. And we'll go down this. Here we have this. Not going to interact well with it, right? So all we have to do, layer that this is on. I accidentally. So we gotta move all of these things around now. Great. Oh yeah, we have lantern. I think that grab this guy. Around a little. And some of these decorative kind of elements. Barrels on the ship as well. Probably not. This one. Lots of barrels. Fish. And then somewhere there's a rope brush. Get that in. Rope brush. Ladders. Back over here. I'm going to make sure my fill is off. Rope. Goblin can. Awesome. How do we want stuff? Might even want to tie some. There are probably like this. Piles of rope and all right, now let's put in our shadows. Colors. Mask. What we'll actually I'm going to maintain the same direction for these shadows because if I ever want to turn the match. Tails going. Anything that's outside here, I'll put that up in a minute. I'll actually. Don't have to cast shadow from the shelf. Might even be. Turn this on. Have like. That will be tied to this. This might be a little bit too dark, so let's make this. Here. That's going to get that feeling like depth. Running through there. Very cool. So I think that you guys can get a much better understanding this time around about the tools and how they work and what an amazing change it is for our creation system. How much more flexibility we'll have. You can see that this ship, for example, before we would have to have all these different parts of the ship, but now we can kind of just create any shape we want to, like a nice texture. How interactive the entire process has now become. Do you guys have any questions, or is there anything that I can clarify for you? Definitely very cool. No questions? Thanks so much, Felix. I think that you probably do. The system makes it pretty easy now. You can constantly go back in and change, adjust everything now. So pretty simply. Oh, hey, Simple DM. Yeah, we did like a star hammer kind of ship. Let's create a new folder. Yep. All of these elements, including like the ladder, all of the drop them right into. Now we have this nice clean kind of interface, and hide that and put that right into. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, if no one has any questions, yep, to the great beyond. Yeah, we were just demonstrating the new painting tools. They're really coming along nicely. So everything is working exceptionally well. So if anyone hasn't tried them yet, I very much suggest that you guys jump in there and try these out. They're in the test channel right now. If you don't know how to get into the test channel, all you have to do is when you first start up the updater, go into your settings, go to the advanced tab, and at the bottom there you'll see a listing of the channel. You can select test and then update. And so you can try out all of these things. Definitely find a bug, please let us know that we can get that fixed, get these pushed live, which is exciting. Great. Well, if no one has any questions, then please, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to call it here for today, and we'll see you next week. I'm here every Saturday from 3 p.m. Eastern Time to just about 6. So we will see you guys.